Well, Frank, I'm going to actually read a list of scientists who actually disagree with your hypothesis on global warming. And these are very eminent scientists, eminent in their fields. Richard Litson, Alfred P. Sloan, Professor of Atmospheric Science at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, National Academy of Science, Gareth Paltridge, visiting fellow at ANU, retired chief research scientist, CSIRO, Division of Atmospheric Research, and retired director of the Institute of Antarctic Cooperation Research Centre. Henrik Tenix, retired director of research, Royal Netherlands Meteorological Institute. Antonio Cecchini, Emeritus Professor Nuclear Physics at the University of Bologna. It's a Russian one there, I can't even pronounce it. I'm having trouble getting over these English names. And some of them are not all that English. Sally Balanis, astronomer, Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. George V. Chillinger, Professor of Civil and Petroleum Engineering at the University of Southern California. Ian Clark, hydrologist, Professor of the Department of Earth Sciences, University of Ottawa. Christy Freitas, Associate Professor, School of Geography, Geology and Environmental Science, University of Auckland. David Douglas, Department of Physics and Astronomy, University of Rochester. David S. Brooks, Professor of Geology, Western Washington University. William N. Gray, Head of Tropical Meteorological Projects, Department of Atmospheric Sciences, Colorado State University. William Happer, specialising in optics and spectroscopy. How do you spell that? How do you say that? Princeton University. William Kennemoff, former Australian delegate to World Meteorological Organisation Commission for Climatology. David Legatus, Associate Professor of Geography and Director of the Centre for Climate Research, University of Delaware. Ted Moretti, Oceanographer, Adjunct Professor, Department of Civil Engineering and Earth Sciences, University of Ottawa. Tim Patterson, he's also published as well. A lot of these people are published, Frank. Paleoclimatologist and Professor of Geology at the Carleton University in Canada. Ian Plimmer, one of our own, he's published as well. Professor Emeritus of Mining Geology at the University of Adelaide. Tom Seger Lastade, Head of Geological Museum at the University of Oslo. Nicola Scafita, she's published, research scientist in the physics department at Duke University. Nia Shaviv, astrophysics, Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Fred Singer, he's published, Professor Emeritus of the Environmental Science at the University of Virginia. Wrote a paper on the greenhouse effect. Willie Soon, astrophysics, Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. Roy Spencer, University of Alabama. Philip Stote, biography in the University of London, biogeography professor. Henrik Sevmark, published, Danish National Space Centre. Jan Witzer, published, environmental geochemist, Professor Emeritus from the University of Ottawa. Sunichi Sufi, retired professor of geophysics and founder director of the International Arctic Research Center of the University of Alaska, Fairbanks. He's also published. Claude Agri, geochemist, Institute of Geography, Paris. Robert C. Bowling Jr., a professor of geography at Arizona State University. John Christie, another published professor of astrophysics or atmospheric science and director of Earth System Science Center of the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Peter Kloidlek, Space and Remote Sensing Science Research, Los Alamos National Laboratory. David Deming, geological professor of the University of Oklahoma. And the list goes on, Frank. Sherwood Idso, former research physicist, USDA. Patrick Michaels, senior fellow of the Cato Institute and research professor of environmental science at the University of Virginia. There's one I missed. Craig D. Idso, faculty research officer at climatology at Arizona State University. Frank, are you going to argue with these people? Because if you are, from articles that I'm gleaning right now, there's 17,200 scientists who disagree with global warming. And what do you got to say about that, Frank? Are you going to say that 17,200 scientists eminent in their fields are wrong? Are you? Because they're producing the evidence that global warming is fast, Frank, and they're standing by their credentials. They really are. Let's have a look. I mentioned the fact that the IPCC is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change as a political body appointed by the UN. Many of the 3,000 members of this panel are not scientists, but simply political appointees. The few real scientists on the panel have disputed the panel's findings, but have been silenced by having their comments deleted from the reports. So, 17,200 scientists around the world, and I just mentioned some of them, Frank, are disputing your claim. And I can read paper after paper to you, and I don't think you get it. One part of the paper says empirical evidence, actually measurements of the Earth's temperature, shows no man-made warming trend. Indeed, over the past 2 decades, when CO2 levels have been at the highest, global average temperatures have actually cooled slightly. The observed increases of magnitude that can, for example, be explained by oceans giving off gases naturally as temperatures rise. Indeed, recent carbon dioxide rises have shown a tendency to follow rather than lead global temperature increases. You've heard of the medieval climate optimum. I'd suggest you have a look at that. Disregarding uncertainties in the surface measurements and giving equal weight to reported atmospheric and surface data as 10 to 19 year averages, the mean global temperature is minus 0.07 Celsius per decade. Minus, Frank, not increased. The global warming hypothesis has been thoroughly evaluated. It does not agree with the data, as they're therefore no validated. And the report current global rate of rise amounts is only above plus 2 millimeters per year, and we're talking about sea level rises here, or plus 8 inches per century. Even this estimate is probably high. The trend in rise and fall of sea level is various regions have a wide range of about 100 millimeters per year, with most of the globe showing downward trends. And this is coming from scientists, Frank, not from me. I'm only relating the information that I've got here on the computer at the moment. Whether you believe it or not, it's totally up to you. Anyway, having said that, and I'll leave that for the time being because I know you'll dispute it. Now you're saying that the majority of Australians voted for the NBN and Julia Gillard has a perfect mandate. No, she does not, Frank. No, she does not. The majority of Australians did not vote for the NBN. If we go by the poll details of the AEC, Frank, the majority of Australians, as you pointed out, Frank, voted for the coalition parties, 74 to 71, which means that under the AEC seating allocation, the majority of Australians and electorates throughout Australia voted against the NBN. You claim that Katter, Oakeshott and Windsor supported the NBN. Details I have, no they didn't. But if you have some further directives, then I'll stand corrected. However, the majority of people in those seats did not vote for areas of the Labor Party in those 3 seats. They voted for Conservative independents, Frank, not Labor Party members. Katter is hardly what you call a Labor Party man for a start, but we're unsure about Windsor and Oakeshott, who were supposedly supposed to be Conservatives, Frank, who turned their back on their own electorate. I'm sorry, but they have. And we're going by the polls of recent, in those, with the exception of Katter's electorate in Kennedy, is now showing that Oakeshott, for example, is negative 13% in popularity in his own electorate. So again, they're turning their back on the NBN and policies of the Labor Party by minus 13%. That's Oakeshott's popularity. I don't make up these polls, Frank. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. You're talking about political dimensions. Well, there you are, Frank. You claim that the Labor Party has the minority. Yes, it does. It's a minority government, Frank. And it only takes one to walk away from it. And you better be careful of Wilkie. He's on the move there. You claim that the consensus for global warming is there. Oh, sorry, global carbon taxation, I should say. Carbon taxation, that Gillard and her government has the mandate. No, they don't, Frank, because she went to the election 6 days out from the election and said, and this is her words, not mine, no government I lead will introduce carbon taxation. Therefore, she's lied to the country if she is now going to introduce global taxation. Carbon taxation, I should say, Frank. I do apologise. Carbon taxation. So, in saying so, Frank, your own members of the Labor Party also voted for that no carbon taxation, Frank, if they believed in what Gillard had to say. So, and all the 74 seats in of the Nationals and Coalition, they had the same opinion. Right. So, you're incorrect, Frank. I'm sorry to tell you that, mate. I hate to split hairs with you, mate, but we go by Gillard, what she said prior to the last federal election, 6 days out, in August last year. You claim you're a socialist, and you wear this t-shirt, and you point it out and said, oh, I'm a socialist. So what? So is Julia Gillard. So is Wayne Swan. Because you claim also that the Labor Party's moved to the right. Yeah, but she's still left of the pendulum as far as we're concerned as Conservatives. We look at the Labor Party and its various factions of the Labor Party, including the centre left and the left of the Labor Party and so forth, and the Socialist, Frank, as like you. So you can claim that you're a socialist and you step away from the Labor Party. Doesn't mean anything to us. You can claim that as much as you like. But you and the Labor Party are both left of a pendulum of political consensus. So you can wear t-shirts as much as you like. In fact, you're more in line with Adolf Hitler than anything else, Frank. I'm surprised that you did not know that. You seem an educated man, but you can continue to swear at people, which is surprising. Frank, you don't get your debate across or your point scoring across by swearing at people or name calling. Now try and get that in the consensus into your head, okay? Anyway, mate, happy to talk to you. Now, I'll take you off block if and when you are able to produce a video with no swearing in it whatsoever, okay? Treat me with the respect that I treat you with. Simple, isn't it? Okay? Bye now.